one of the areas of complexity that I first encountered was, I said, oh, I'm going to write this business plan, I'm going to go out and raise money. How can they not want to go out and drink gin? But the business of having fun on a Friday night drinking gin and tonics and the business of sort of making gin and monetizing that and giving a return to investors are two different things, as I very, very quickly realized. So you put together a good business plan, went out to everybody I knew, all my high school friends, all my college friends, all my banking buddies. And one issue was nobody could quantify, nobody could fully appreciate the value of this idea. There's no liquid market, unintended, in the alcohol business for venture capital type ideas. All the ideas, all the brands that you guys drink on the shelf today, Bacardi, Grey Goose, all of them are owned by huge billion-dollar companies. They're gigantic brands. Most of the successful incubation in the industry happens from these big guys. So the reason is they have so much distribution muscle and they have unlimited amounts of money. They effectively control the market. So going on to raise money for an idea like this, people said, well, why can't Bacardi or why can't Pernod or why can't Diageo launch something like this? I said they could, but there's one big problem in the liquor business. These guys are huge, $50 billion, very profitable companies. But they're very risk averse. They don't want to launch a new product that fails. Some manager sitting in London doesn't want to put his bonus on the line at the end of the year by some product extension that fails and he doesn't make his bonus. He'd rather spend that money on increasing sales of existing brands. So there's a misalignment of incentives. And I felt that was a key thing because me being a passionate entrepreneur with an idea that I felt was a very good idea, that was the difference between us and the big companies. They cannot take an idea from 0 to 50,000 cases, but they're great at taking something from 50,000 cases to 1 million cases. So when I went to talk to investors, I tried to explain that this is the issue. And most of my banking friends said, well, I have a chance to buy stock in IBM or other things. Why would I invest in this idea? The payout's not going to be 6 or 7 years from now. It's incredibly risky. I like you, you're a nice guy, but I don't know what's going to happen to this money. How do I know? One guy even said, how do I know you're not going to drink it all? I said, of all the risks you mentioned, that's the one you should be most worried about. Finally, we put together a plan, and with the help of that person from the industry, went out, raised money very professionally. We would sit down. I would always wear my suit and tell people why this idea would work, what the principles were for a successful investment. And here my banking experience really helped me talk to investors, which I thought that was one of the examples of a transferable skill I learned in banking that helped me in my entrepreneurial career. So we raised a small amount of money in May of 2005 while I was still working. And again, nights and weekends I worked on Bulldog. As we got closer to 2006, early 2007, we worked on the launch and expansion strategy. Now, being a banker, I realized that the way companies are valued, what makes a company big is you become big, you become scale, huge scale, you get a big multiple, you sell the company, and you're done. Now, that was sort of part of the seduction of being an entrepreneur, was that you could build a huge company, you could sell it one day, and stuff like that. So I thought, let me just think as big as possible. But I quickly realized that if we expanded, and this is a classical, I believe, classic entrepreneurial mistake that we avoided, is we didn't come out with Bulldog one day and said, I want to be in 50 states tomorrow, sit on all the shelves, and bottles collect dust, because that would have been fatal for us, having a brand that sat on the shelves and do anything. We said, let's start neighborhood by neighborhood in New York, and then expand to New Jersey, Connecticut, and go to other places, then to London, and now in Spain, and a few other places, once we've succeeded. Because you only get a chance, you don't get a second chance to have your first launch. So we said we'll make our first launch as impactful as possible. So we decided to be deliberate and gradual, and something I learned from my dad, which I often quote, is the king of one castle, not the prince of many. And that has served us well and still is our guiding philosophy. We want to go to a place, we want to own it, we want to mark our territory, and then we go to the next place. Just a little bit about Bulldog, a little product placement. I hope you guys don't mind. This is just, if you take a look at the map on the right, I don't know if you guys can see it over there, but this is where we fit in the mind of the consumers, where we said where we wanted to be. The y-axis on the top is premium, at the bottom is affordable. Left is traditional on the x-axis, and modern is the right side of the x-axis. We want to be on the top right. Any marketing expert will tell you that is a place, if you can own that corner, that's where Grey Goose is, Patron, Johnny Walker Blue, other brands, high margin high growth. That's the place you want to be. Many people try that, but don't often succeed. But I said, we can try this and we will succeed in that. So other brands like Bombay, Sapphire, Hendrix, other brands are very premium, but their imagery is more traditional. Queen Victoria, the old British Raj, being a proud Indian, I don't like anything that celebrates the British Raj. So I said we're going to come out with something more stylish and maybe more James Bondish that gets people excited. So I said the other thing for us to succeed was I wanted volume from existing gin drinkers, the younger set, but also from vodka drinkers. In the U.S., vodka is 6 times as big as gin. So I said that's a huge opportunity. People are drinking vodka not because they necessarily like it, but that's all they're familiar with. So I said maybe there's an opportunity for us to take a little bit, borrow some of the consumers from vodka, which really widens the playing field a lot, and I like it when there's a much bigger target market. And recently, about a year and a half ago, we got the highest rated awarded to a gin by Wine Enthusiast magazine, which is a very, very venerable competitive partner. We did not pay for that rating, they gave it to us on their own. A lot of other brands, you can see the world's best tasting vodka and all that stuff, they pay good money for those people. So Bulldog today, just very quickly, we're now sold in North America and Western Europe. We're in 12 countries and growing. We just expanded into West Africa. I think I was hearing somebody earlier from Cameroon. We just started selling there. We are one of the fastest growing and top 4 premium gins in Spain. Now Spain is important because it's the world's best per capita premium gin market. Beefeater sells twice as much in Spain as it does in the entire United States. To give you an example of how important the gin market is. And in 2 years now we're number 4. And number 4 is important because there's 120 gins in Spain. So 4 out of 120 is a pretty good thing. We've been in the Wall Street Journal and the Financial Times, on CNBC, Business Week, and other things. And we've been very well received by mixologists around the world. Christian Lozati is the best mixologist in Europe. Other guys in New York and stuff have seen Bulldog. It's a very mixable, very easy to drink gin that stands up to its peers. So I thought, in wrapping up, what I tell you guys is the experience has been incredible. But to the extent any of you ever want to become entrepreneurs, and I hope that some of you do, I thought I'd share just a couple of things that nobody told me when I started, and I wish I'd had the benefit of this counsel before I started. So, first thing is whatever can go wrong will go wrong. By the way, I'm sure that's everything in life, but certainly in this, the difference is as an entrepreneur, when you say something can go wrong, you're there to face it alone. I remember my 3rd day at JP Morgan, my computer keyboard broke, like the down and arrow button came loose. It didn't even break. I mean, just like, but I called the tech help desk and I said, my keyboard's broken, can you help me? 2 guys dressed in tuxedos, I felt like, came down in 5 minutes, brought me an assortment of 3 keyboards and said, which one would you like us to install? I said, what do you mean install? They said, oh, we'll put the wire in. I said, I don't need 2 guys. I felt like I was going to Circuit City or Best Buy. They bought me such a It was pretty amazing. Now, no such luck as an entrepreneur when you need checked out at midnight on Saturday. You're in. Bunch of production deadlines. A lot of things in Bulldog, in essence. We control the brand and the marketing and the sales, but we outsource the distillation, the production, and everything. So you're very often beholden to the production schedule of the distillery, which produces other big brands. So sometimes as a smaller guy, you get put in the back of the pack, and that's something to be aware of. You get investors sometimes who are not the friendliest people, or they have expectations that are different. Like, for example, one of the things that never even occurred to me is we got someone who invested in the company. I met him at the gym. He's a real estate guy. He invested in the company, and things were great. A year into it, him and his wife had to go through a divorce, and they decided to split their assets up before they got divorced. So he wanted to cash out of Bulldog, which is a very difficult thing. We're a liquid private company, not obligated to do that. But he called me every night crying, saying, I need to get this out so I can split my assets. So we had to go through a bit of a legal sort of process, and that took more than 2 weeks of my time that I'd rather not have spent on it. I'm not sure you can ever avoid, an investor who goes through a divorce and he has to cash out. It was just something I thought I'd mention. And then overexpanding, like I said, even though we started very small in part neighborhoods of Manhattan, I felt we could have gone to 4 or 5 places and just focus on them. We built it up 10 bars at a time and expanded from 10 to 100 to 1,000. People made the company. For first year and a half, I did everything on my own. I was chief marketing officer, chief legal officer, chief technology officer. Now, I did that perhaps mostly out of necessity. I didn't necessarily want to do 18 jobs at one time, but I did. But once we raised a little bit more money and we grew, I decided that I could either spend an X and get somebody, or spend 2X and get somebody who's much more capable and qualified. So my chief marketing officer now is the former CEO of Remy Martin and former vice president of marketing for Playboy. And my vice president of business development is somebody who used to work at Diageo and Goldman Sachs before. Now they're fairly well-paid people, but their drive, their skill set really complements my own and helps the company sort of grow a lot quicker than you probably would have without them. So that's something I think, if and when you guys start your own company, you can be faced with the dilemma. Should I spend more than I planned on spending to get this person? And I would answer that by saying yes, if you feel that they're as hungry and they understand the mission and they're capable of delivering. Because usually that extra money will pay for itself many times over in the long run. Here's another, in college or you watch movies, you hear inspirational speeches, you often hear it, do this, if you build it, they will come. I remember first shipment of Bulldog Gin, and that first container arrived, I went to the dock to see it unload, I was so excited about it, took the case home, and it sat in the warehouse, it was a week, and I was waiting for all these orders to show up, but nobody else seemed to really even want to order any of the Bulldog, which is quite an interesting experience. When you built it, I thought my work was done, silly me. I built this beautiful product, great package, great liquid, and I was drinking the hell out of it, but the success of the company was not me drinking the gin and tonics, but bars and restaurants and such ordering it. So I needed to make that happen. So you realize that if you build it, they will come. Certainly in a very sort of in the luxury consumer space, it doesn't work. You have to have the money, you have to have the budget to go out and promote it, so that people know that it exists, why it's better than the product they currently consume. So smart advertising and a smart rollout plan, like I mentioned, little by little, the kingdom of one castle, not the prince. In addition to a good product, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people, a lot of my peers in the spirits business, they build great products that never move off the shelf because I would diagnose their problem by saying they felt their work was done when they built a good product. I believe that's step A to success. Out of 40 steps, that's the first step. You then have to have the ability, you have to have a really good product that you then roll out and market well for it to succeed. A lot of the liquor brands that you drink today, that shall remain nameless, are not necessarily the best or highest quality product on the markets. They've just been marketed and distributed very well. And they've become ubiquitous and part of sort of the fabric. And I would say the number one lesson is I would thank my dad in the front row here for teaching me that, but you always have to be relentless. Be the success you wish to see, because otherwise it's not going to happen. I will tell you, the best days as an entrepreneur are when some nightclub or some bar you want to buy it, buys it without you asking, they reorder, where you go to a bar and you see, you're just sitting there. This happens a lot for me now. I'm just sitting in the bar hanging out and I'm looking at somebody who's ordering, Bulldog. They don't know me, they don't know I work for Bulldog, the bartender doesn't know me. And the thrill that somebody I've never met that's chosen to order a product I created of their own volition because they saw an ad for it is the most, I don't even know how to describe. I feel like I just want Wimbledon every time. But on the flip side, days where you didn't close a deal you wanted, or your sale for this month were down 10% and you didn't need it, there's also the lowest feelings you'll ever have because your success, all of it becomes internalized and extremely personal as opposed to when you're part of a big company. So the success is yours, as is sort of the failures and things that don't happen. You also have to deal with them. So that's it. Thanks.